Now let's show you how to fetch data inside the server component and inside the client component. Both use different approaches to fetch data. Inside the server component, we use async await and with server actions. Inside the client component, we use effect and use state. Let's show you how to fetch data inside the server component. So first, I need to create. Let's delete this. Let's close this, and let's create a new file which is page.tsx, and inside this page.tsx let's create a function which is export default async, and the function, let's say it's server, let's say this server, and let's render this and return let's return this, and let's say link, no, let's give nothing, h1 hi0, and let's duplicate this and let's save this for now. Now we need to fetch the data. So inside this is the server component. If I use client, it will throw in an error because we cannot use async component inside the client component. We can only use async components inside a server component. I will show you why I use async inside this component. This is used to fetch data inside the fetch function. Now I can create the fetch function. Now async function fetch data this is the fetch function which we can use to fetch data from the external server or our API folder. So we can use async function inside this. Before this we use API folder, but now in the newer version we can use async function inside directly our server components. So now let's create try catch error, and console.log error. In the try file I will use icanas.jokes API to fetch all the data. So let's create const response equals await fetch https, I think it's like this, https / icon has dot joke.com / we need to fetch the header. If we fetch this directly, it is a website, not an API, so we need to parse only the header. So I can create a bracket, and inside this bracket I can specify headers, and inside these headers I can accept application.json, and below this I can return response.json, and let's save this. Now you can see I am fetching the data from this website, and I am parsing its application not .json/json. Now it will parse the application JSON and it will give me the joke. Now I can render in here. Let's delete this and let's render. First we need to call this function. If this function is not called, it will not execute, so we need to call it. So let's give const data equals we need to call the function await. We need to await the function await fetch data, and after calling this function, now we can render the data. So the data will be, we'll have let's show you with postman. Now let's show you with postman first. Now I can create a new endpoint, and let's come here and let's copy this, Ctrl C, and let's paste it here, and inside the header I can specify accept, and let's specify application/json, and let's get this. You can see the data will have id, joke, and status. So we need the joke, and let's go here, and I have already called the function. Now to render the data, we need to opt into the object, and we need to choose between the three. I need to render this joke. If we render the data as a whole, it will give us an error because you cannot render the object directly inside the template. So we need to render the joke. Let's render the joke, and let's give a div, and inside this div we need to create data.joke, and let's save this. And when we go to the server component, it will render that. Let's go here, and let's delete this, and let's go here. You can see it will render the server component. It will render this, but you can see if I refresh this, the joke will not be refreshed. But in this case, if I send again, you can see it give us different jokes, but in Next.js case, it will give the same joke because it has cached our request. So in order to revalidate this cache, we need to give another element, which is next revalidate, and let's give a 5 second. Now every 5 seconds it will revalidate the cache. Now if I go to here, and if I refresh, you can see after 5 seconds it will refresh our jokes. But if I don't want to revalidate every 5 seconds, if I want to catch, if I don't want any catch, we can delay this and give catch, and let's say no store. We can give no catch or no store, and if I say like this, and if I refresh, every time I refresh, it will give me a new post. You can see it will give me a new post. So now this is how you fetch data inside the server component. But if I change this to use client, let's show you. If I change this to use client and save this, it will give me an error because we cannot use async await function inside the client component. If I come here and if I refresh this, I think it works fine, but it is not good practice to use like this. Let's save this. Yeah, I don't save it before. Now if I save it, it will throw an error. Let's see this. Yeah, it will work fine, but you must use you can see it will give me some error. Prevent client component from async function. You can see it will give me some error inside the function. So in order to change this, we don't need use client inside async component. So in order to fetch inside the client component, let's go to this client component and let's create a new page.tsx. And in order to fetch data, we can use effect like in React. So let's show you that. So let's create the function export default, and the function, let's say client, and let's return again div hi there, and let's duplicate this and let's save this. Now in order to fetch the data, we need to use state and use effect. So now let's define our use state const data set data equals use state. I need to import it from React. Use state, let's give this an object of joke, and it will be string, and initially it will have joke of empty, and let's save this, and let's create a function again which fetches our data. So we can fetch data equals async. This is not async component, this is async function which we can call inside use effect. So we can use async component. So we can use like this, and we can render async try and catch error console.log error, and save this, and go to try catch, and let's render this const response equals await fetch. Let's copy this inside the server. Let's copy this command, and let's come here, and let's delete this and paste it here, and let's comma this, and headers again we can accept application/json. I think it is giving us an error. Fetch, yeah, it must be inside bracket, I think, like this. Yeah, so now we can fetch like this, and again const data equals await response.json, and let's set data to data, and let's save this. And now we can call use effect outside of our fetch function. We can come here, and let's call use effect from React, and let's come here, and let's call the fetch data function fetch data, and we can call it when the page or when the component initialized. If I use like empty array, it will say like only render this use effect when this component initialized. But if I don't use like this, it will render every time, it will run every time when something changes inside this component. But in this case we can use when the component renders. So inside this we can use inside the data, we can use data div, which is data dot joke, and save this. Now if I go to the client component, now I am in the server component. If I go to the client component, not the client this way with id, inside the client component, yeah, so it will give me an error because I'm trying to render this effect inside the server component. It's if I don't specify this client, it will count it as a server component. So I need to go here and let's specify use client and save this. Now it will give me the component. Let's wait here. You can see it will give me the component. But now if I refresh this, every time when I refresh this, it will give me a new fetched data. We cannot cache like this inside the server component. We must use React query or other libraries to cache the data. So in this case, you cannot cache the data directly. So you can see you have fetched inside the client component and inside the server component. So this is how you fetch data inside the client and the server component. Let's move on to the next section.